Welcome to the Carl Jackson podcast. This is season 4, season finale. And yeah, man, I was going to have some guests on tonight. And I decided at the last second to kind of go a different direction. Not the last second, but I've been thinking about it for the last week, what I wanted to do. And I want to talk about the election. Election time is upon us, and 2020 has been a year. I don't think anyone my age and younger, and I would say even people that are 70 or 80 years old and younger, probably have ever experienced anything like this. 2020 was one of those years where you just kind of go, what just happened? You know, it's kind of like, it reminds me of going to like a play or a musical or something, and you know, the play starts or the musical starts, and out of the clear blue somebody starts singing, and they're not that great at singing, and you find out they're the co-lead of the play or the co-lead of the concert or whatever, and you're now stuck having to sit there and feel the embarrassment of this person as they try to perform, and you're trying to figure out, are they oblivious to what's going on, or do they know how embarrassing they are right now? Do they sense the embarrassment? That's what 2020 was for me. It's one of those moments where we're all going, what just happened? What's going on here? And what's even more embarrassing is seeing and listening to people talk about their politics and their opinions about politics. I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to start in terms of just kind of the concept and the ideas of how we're supposed to interact with each other in our differences. But one thing that I wanted to talk about tonight and encourage you guys, you know, we here in the States, we have, you know, Democrats and Republicans, and, you know, each side has their particular thoughts on how life is supposed to go for everybody else. The problem with that, though, is that no one is really thinking about everybody else. It's almost like everybody is just kind of on the edge, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And it's kind of interesting to me how everyone is thinking about their politics and what they deem is correct way of living and thinking. But the whole purpose of voting, the whole purpose of our democracy, is to think about the next generation. It's to think about the future generations when you're making your decisions. You're supposed to balance all of it, not just what you deem in the moment as the thing or the objective that you should be focused on. And I think that's kind of the problem. We're seeing people from a moral perspective, if that's even the right term right now to use. We're seeing people from a moral perspective only care about what they care about. They don't care about anybody else's thoughts or ideas or concepts, and they're not thinking about the future. And so it's very sad, you know, it's very sad. I could talk about Trump. I could talk about, you know, Biden. I could, you know, go back and forth on policies and try to convince you who you should vote for. But I don't want to do that tonight on the season finale. What I want to do tonight is talk about your moral compass. And how do you judge things? And how do you vote? And how do you gauge your decisions based upon your moral compass? I think the moral compass is the issue. You know, it's one thing to vote, you know, but it's another thing to vote with the moral compass, with the moral perspective. What I'm seeing is people have lost that concept of morality. And when I say morality, I use that word loosely. So I don't want people thinking I'm saying Christianity or church or all those things that, you know, people think about. I just mean the morality of humanity, if I can put that together, those two words together, the morality of humanity, I actually like that. That seems to be lost. Because it doesn't matter what your personal opinions are. It shouldn't matter what your views are. But your moral compass, your moral ideals should be based upon thinking about everybody, you know? I have this saying about divorce. You see a lot of divorced couples. And one of the things that I always say is, I think everybody should learn how to be a husband or a wife. You go to school to learn how to drive a car. You go to school to learn how to become a doctor. You go to school to learn how to become, a magician. You go to school to learn how to become a dentist. You go to school to become a pilot. You even have to have a permit, at least, to build a fence around your house, which means even if you build your fence, if you did it incorrectly, you have to redo it. So indirectly, that's almost like you got to train yourself. You have to figure out how to do it correctly. If the permit dictates you have to do it a certain way, and you missed, But for some reason, for marriage, it just seems like you don't need a license. All you need is your definition or your concept of love. And that's enough. Meanwhile, you start having kids, you start disrespecting your wife or your husband. And next thing you know, you're in the divorce court because you had no tools, no idea of what you were doing. And that, my friend, is an issue. That is the problem with our country. That is the problem with people and humanity. We feel that we have the answers when we should be looking for the answers. We should be looking for the answers of what it's going to take to vote correctly. We should be looking for the answers of how to navigate through our decisions. We should be looking for the answer of how we should be voting and how we should use our rights. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do it. So what do we do? What do we do when we are living in a world of people, persons who feel that their moral compass is not only going in the right direction, but you are disrespecting them for not respecting their moral compass? What do? Well, what you do is you educate, you teach. But how do you teach when no one wants to listen? How do you teach when no one wants to hear? How do you explain yourself in a way that people can get it without coming off like you are judging how they are or saying that they're beneath you? And that's what I see. I see a lot of people who have great answers, but they have a difficult time trying to express these answers to other people. And then the people that they're talking to feel like they have the answers. And so if you don't know how to present whatever you're feeling or present the truth, they can take it as if you are talking down to them, like you're being condescending, So what do you do when everyone feels that they have the answer to everything? The problem I see right now, even as I, record this podcast, is that everyone feels like they have the answer. So when someone who really has the answer tries to talk to someone who really don't have the answer, the person who don't have the answer gets offended at the person that does have the answer. That's hard. It's difficult. We are at a crucial time in our election right now. It's so crucial that it's really light against darkness. It's evil against good. It is literally at that moment. We're at the seam, if you will, and it's going to rip. But when it rips, what side will the debris fall on? Will it fall on the good or evil? You should be asking yourself, what is my moral compass? How am I judging this election? How am I voting in this election? A lot of people were mad at me for defending President Trump. When President Trump was first in office, I wasn't a fan. I thought he was funny. I thought he was almost like a comedian, but I didn't particularly care for him. But what I did do is do some studying, read up on his policies, read up on who he was and what he was about, listened to what he said. And everything that people said about him, the people that didn't like him, was very harsh. And I was harsh. I said harsh things about him. But looking at this very moment in time, I now realize that everything is not what it appears to be when you first look at it. And that's what I want to challenge people to do. I'm challenging everyone to look at things for what it really is. I remember when Barack Obama was the president of the United States, everyone was excited. Everyone was happy, and everybody was just ecstatic, First black president, yay. And then at the end of the 8 years, it was like, wow, what did I learn from this situation? What did I learn from this moment, What did I gain as a person spiritually from him being the president? What did I lose? What would I have done differently? Would I have voted differently? Would I have even voted at all? These are the questions you should be asking yourself, and try to find a way to cut off the television. I know I'm on television. I know you're listening to me by Spotify or CJC Radio, and by the way, download the CJC Radio app, please. A lot of you have, and a lot of you have not. Download the CJC Radio app. It's a great complement to the CJC television network. But anyway, turn off the television. Turn off the radio. Clear your mind. Escape all the chatter for 2 or 3, 4, 5 days and look within yourself. Find out where do you stand spiritually, and then figure out how it connects to your voting right. And you should vote. You should vote. Don't ever think that your vote doesn't count. It does count. Electorally, presidentially, it counts. Your elected officials, locally, it all counts. You should vote. But you should vote from that still small voice from within, the good voice. And it's always silent. It's not loud and boisterous and rude and pushy. It's a very still small voice. But you can't hear it if you are always in the mindset of listening to other people. And that's kind of what we've been doing. We've been listening to other people. We've been listening to the radio. We've been listening to commentators. We've been listening to podcasts. We've been listening to all this stuff, as opposed to just turning it all off and going, where am I spiritually? Where do I want to go? Where do I want my kids to go? My family? Because that's where we are. We are in that moment now. We are in that time where we should be thinking about, what do we want to do? Where do we want to go spiritually? And how are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? You know, when I started this podcast, I was going through a difficult time, believe it or not. I've been doing this podcast now for 4 years. It's hard to believe it went by so fast. This is our first year doing it on television. And so season 4 is very special because technically it's our first season of the podcast being on television, but it's our 4th season as a podcast. But when I first started this podcast, I was actually, believe it or not, in a hotel room in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was there taking care of some personal business, and it's a very difficult time. It was a very, very sad time for me. And one of the things that made me do this podcast was I was sitting in my hotel room. I was feeling lost about what decisions to make in a certain situation. I felt alone. I felt discouraged. It's a time of my life I don't want to ever relive again, ever. And it was so dark that I said, you know what? I need to get my mind off of this because it's trying to destroy me. It's trying to take me out. So I picked up my gear I had in my hotel room. I didn't feel like going anywhere. I didn't want to go out to eat. I didn't want to get in my rental car and do anything. Although I did do some stuff later, but at that moment I just was done. I just was like, I'm lost. I don't know what the next move is. And something said, start a podcast. And if you listen to the first episode, it's funny. When you listen to the first episode, it's kind of like a person, you can kind of hear in the guy's voice, which was me, you can kind of hear in my voice that I'm kind of like not really even sure how this is going to all play out. You know, when we originally started, we were going to do it as a call-in show, you know, every week at a certain time. And I quickly figured that wasn't going to work because there's too much to compete with, and who's going to really tune into a news show at a certain time every night or every week. I saw that wasn't going to work, so we immediately took that concept off the floor and decided to make it, you know, as an on-demand piece, which has been working out great for me. And but that first episode, I remember sitting in the hotel room and I was thinking, where do I want to go? What is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to be doing? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. The knowledge and the information and the wisdom that I have, I'm supposed to work that wisdom by giving it away, by finding ways to reach the people that want to be reached. Give that knowledge to other people, because that's how you change the world. The light that's in you shines out and shines bright so that others can be inspired, others can be touched, and others can be, you know, just changed, you know? And immediately after I finished the first episode, I felt better. Not great, but I felt a whole lot better. And it really became clear that this was something I was supposed to do outside of filmmaking. I was supposed to find ways to touch the world. And now we're at season 4, and we're gonna shut down for a few months as we produce other projects. I'm a filmmaker, as most of you know. I'm a producer, so I have other projects I've got to do for the next few months. And we'll do season 5 in 2021, probably first quarter, second quarter. We'll start back up again weekly. So my point is, it led me to this moment. Now I'm in front of you talking on television across the world. Now we're in basically every state in the Union of the United States, and we're in several countries, from Korea to Latin America to places that I didn't even see this happening when I did my first podcast, my first episode. I didn't see any of this. All I saw was that I had some gear and I wanted to use it just to get my mind off of the problems that I was dealing with in North Carolina, and was basically going between Atlanta and North Carolina for for about almost a month. It seemed like it was like a month, taking care of business and doing some stuff that was personal. And when I got back to California, which is where I reside and where my business is, I continued it. I continued doing the podcast, and it just grew and grew and grew. And so I'm saying that to say this. It starts with you looking in the mirror and saying, what is my purpose? Why am I on this earth? What am I supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to move forward in life? What am I supposed to be focused on? And it's going to always go back to one answer. Just one. One answer. And you know what it is? Help other people. That's it.